Hi everyone. Sorry for the slight delay here. We're going to wait another minute or so and then get going. There's still a few more people coming in here, so just hold on for one more minute. All right, I think we're actually all here now. So welcome. Coming to you from Barcelona, which is mostly sunny today. And yeah, if you're having trouble hearing me, just let me know. You can raise your hand and you should be able to chat now. So there's a chat box you should be able to see if you need to send me anything. And actually, I'm going to shoot you. Let me get to the link right here. I'm going to shoot you the link for the slide share. So you should have that now if you want to follow along there. But yeah, I guess just a quick introduction. I'm Jordan from Devryware. Hi, Rafael. I think there's a bit of a delay as well. You can also watch the video here on YouTube, which might be a little bit quicker, especially for the FAQs. It gets a little bit crazy at the end there. So maybe try the YouTube video, which is just a couple second delay, where I think this could be even 3 or 4 minutes. So yeah, like I was saying, I'm Jordan. I'm the digital marketing manager for Devryware Iberia. We have a lot of location-based services. I work a lot with governments, with retailers. We have some projects with museums. Yeah, so pretty broad range of products and clientele. And we do actually have an iBeacon SDK. It also works with geofencing, so it can enable apps to send messages via beacons or geofencing. I can give you more info, or we can even have a one-on-one talk some point after the webinar. I can give you the link here now too, beacons.com, and then the main company, devryware.com. Okay, so without further ado, let's get going here. iBeacon marketing. So yeah, more and more consumers or users want to be reached at the right place and right time. So iBeacons are one way, as well as geofencing, that allow brands or companies to do just that. Communicate with phones via Bluetooth, basically triggering messages. So what exactly is proximity marketing? Proximity marketing is any system that utilizes location technologies to directly communicate with customers via portable devices. Users of proximity marketing include distribution of media at concerts, information, gaming, and social applications, retail check-ins, payment gateways, local advertising, the list goes on. So proximity marketing is broader than beacons. Like I said, geofencing is part of that, as well as NFC. But many look to beacons as the best way to conduct proximity marketing. And yeah, so if they're not there already, beacons are coming to businesses near you. Many brands actually have deployments, but do not publicize that they're using them. So they could be doing some small scale testing or using them to gather helpful analytics. Yeah, so I think hopefully you guys have an idea of what beacons are already, so I won't dive into too many more details, but if you do have questions, feel free to ask along the way, and I'll try to get to them here or in the FAQ at the end, and specifically how they work, or, yeah. So there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of different types of companies, governments even using beacons. And there is a pretty big opportunity here because beacons allow people to do things like indoor mapping. So you can, a lot of airports, for example, use beacons to help travelers get around, get to the right gate. So it helps really with indoors specifically, because it obviously GPS doesn't work indoors. It helps you collect data using the data you already have on users and apply that data to the specific position that they're in, even though it's anonymous. So you don't have to worry too much about privacy concerns as long as the users can trust your app. So they're used for indoor mapping, for data, and like I was saying, for sending messages, for triggering messages. Basically, they send an identifier to a phone, and that can trigger something. So it can trigger an app to pop up, or it can trigger a notification. But of course, that the data isn't being transmitted via Bluetooth, which is why it's Bluetooth Low Energy. It's actually just triggering information that's already on the phone, or it's triggering it to take it from data on the phone or from Wi-Fi. So hopefully that's a good overview of who's using it and what they're using it for, and some of the opportunities. And there are some concerns. Like I was just saying, privacy is a bit of concern for some, but if you can trust the app, then you can trust the beacons. There are some security concerns. There is some cases of beacon spoofing, of people simulating beacons, and using that information to send out beacon messages with the same identifier as the beacons that you might be using in your retail location. That can be avoided by using a couple different beacon manufacturers who kind of randomize the identifiers. They cycle through them, so spoofing can be prevented that way. Beacons can be stolen too, so maybe you want to be aware where you're placing them. Yeah, so there are a few security concerns when it comes to beacons, and some privacy concerns. But if you use the right manufacturers and place them in the right location, and also don't spam with them, because there is a concern that they can be overused, and people don't want to get pop-ups they don't need. So if you follow those 3 practices, having a good location, using the right manufacturer, using good software too, I should add to that, and not spamming, but always offering value if you are directly messaging your consumers, your users, then they should be a good fit for you. So I'm not seeing any questions. Again, any questions along the way, just let me know. So I'm going to dig a little bit deeper into iBeacon hardware and specifically, iBeacon hardware and software specifically, of those four best practices, because it's really important to get those right. And then I'm going to dive a little bit into beacon analytics, because a lot of times people get so excited about getting their beacons, they place them, and they don't really have a strategy for gathering the data. And even if you're just using beacons to send messages, it's good to know the analytics that you can receive via beacons as well, and to strategize that in advance. Even if you're not thinking about using them now for analytics, it's good to be thinking about using them in the future. So first off, iBeacon hardware. So there's a lot that goes into choosing iBeacon hardware. I just have here what matters when choosing the beacon hardware and configuring iBeacon hardware. I won't dive too much into how to configure beacon hardware, because it depends on the manufacturer. I can send you a link. We do have some beacon troubleshooting that can help you out. I can shoot a link to that in an email at the end of this. Actually, I have the pin right here. Send that to you now. Any open source Android or iPhone app? So yeah, that's a good question, Zishan. I can dig more into that in the FAQ, but just going into that briefly now, and let me send the link to the pin here. There are a number of projects with beacons that have a more centralized app. So I can give you a link to, let me try and find it, FiNet. FiNet may be worth checking out. I just talked to the director a couple weeks back. FiNet. Let me look for the link. But there is a couple projects, especially now with here. There are a couple projects. Yeah, that's a good one too. There are some ways to build beacon apps yourselves, and there are some projects that kind of let you let a number of people come in and use the same app. For example, FiNet. I can come up with a couple other examples too if you're interested. But yeah, so you can either build an app yourself, add an SDK to an existing app, or you can use Google Chrome to send messages with a project like FiNet as well. But in general, they're used with apps because Chrome's not on all mobile devices yet. But I can dig more into that later. Back to hardware. So there's a lot of different questions you want to ask about the hardware. You really want to ask about battery length. You may not need a very long battery life, but the battery life varies greatly depending on the price point usually. We've seen from 2 weeks, I think you can get them for $5 up till 8 or 9 years for around $35. You may want rechargeable batteries. You may want batteries that plug right into the wall. You may want batteries that it's powered via USB. But really think about the battery life. Think about the location of the beacons, as I was mentioning earlier. You don't want them to be stolen, so maybe you want to keep them a little bit above chest level, above head level. That's usually the higher they are, as long as they're not too far above you, the better they work, the more area they can cover too. You also may want them to be in a public spot if again, not easily stolen, but in a public spot, so people will notice them and will remember to turn on Bluetooth. Or you may want them to be more conspicuous if you just use them for data. So keep in mind the location when you're choosing the casing. You know, if you want a really bright color or just a plain color that fits in more with your particular setting. You also want to note how easy it is to configure. You really want to make sure there's clear docs on how to set the beacons up, and whether or not it's formatted for Apple's iBeacon or Google's Eddystone. So as I was mentioning earlier, Google's Eddystone allows, there's 4 different beacon frames that Google's Eddystone sends. These are 2 different beacon protocols. iBeacon's the older one from Apple, and Google's Eddystone is a newer one released, I think, last July. And so there's 4 different frames with Eddystone. One of them lets you communicate directly with Chrome, and it pulls up a link on Chrome if they have the location services enabled on the device in general. So that's really cool if a lot of your users are Android, but if they're on iOS too, it's unlikely that there's going to be a lot of people using Chrome on iOS, or Google's Eddystone is going to trigger Safari messages anytime soon, because obviously Google and Apple aren't the best of friends. But do note whether your beacons can have the iBeacon and or Eddystone frames. Some send them out simultaneously, but some you have to choose, and some just offer one or the other. Most beacon projects use iBeacon still, but I think Eddystone's the beacon of the future. So you want to have that option even if you're still going with Apple's iBeacon. And yes, sorry, Zishan, I'm just seeing this now. I can, send you some more links as well. I think I have your email. And As far as, yeah, just closing out Beacon hardware here. You may want cloud management in the future, maybe not now, but maybe you would want one beacon to be able to control all of the other beacons you have remotely. I think Fi.net actually, they I don't know if it was their study or they just found it, but setting up and managing a beacon, depending on who's doing it, can cost $300, even though the beacon maybe costs $30 or $20. If you're spending all this time managing and setting it up, it can really raise the cost as well. So you may want something that can be managed remotely or is easy to manage too. And yeah, most manufacturers will suit you just fine. But before purchasing, ask for some case studies or a recommendation with someone used them before. If you're thinking about a large-scale deployment, usually they offer beacons in sets of 3, so maybe test them out first too. If you're looking for a manufacturer with in your specific country, maybe you want to check out proxbook.com. They track the industry pretty well, actually. So you can find out about what these different manufacturers offer with this website. It's worth looking into if you're interested in the industry as a whole, or if you're looking for manufacturers with specific requirements that you need. And yeah, Zishan, so as far as the difference between proximity location beacons and stickers, maybe you're thinking of Estimote. If you can clarify, that'd be great. But those beacons that Estimote has, the sticker beacons, they don't send data quite as far, and they're not really meant for. I don't think that the rate is quite as fast either. So they're not really meant for working with an app to send proximity messages. Hopefully, yeah. If you're not talking about Estimote, maybe send me a link to where you're looking at the location beacons and stickers. But yeah, we've talked to Estimote directly, and they're really not great for working with apps. They're more for helping you. The stickers are more for helping you find specific objects. So hopefully that covers everything for Beacon hardware. As far as Beacon software, it's really important that you guys, if you're not building your own app or integrating it directly into your app, it's important to make sure you have the right SDK to work with. An SDK that has an API, that's kept up to date with the best practices. There are some people that specialize in helping you add Beacon functionality to your apps, but I do recommend finding someone who has an SDK that already does this rather than having to integrate into your app. It's much less of a hassle. And usually they come with a CMS, a content management system that you can use to update the Beacon messages or see the Beacon data directly right on the internet. So just quickly, because we don't have too much time here. You want to know if it's easy to integrate. So you want to make sure, just like with the hardware, that you have docs available, well written, clear, and make sure it's possible on iOS and Android. Make sure they've got they've got a REST API, so that has make sure this has ready to use statistics, average time and point zones, who visited what. If they can integrate with the mobile data that you already collect, like operating system, SDK version that you have, the device model, etc. Maybe even country of origin if you're collecting that data. And then, yeah, you want to have access to raw data too. Maybe if you want to do surveys, that would be a great thing to have. Yeah, so all of that data and statistics, plus the ability to create contents, especially if you're a retailer, like campaigns, actions, triggers, sending out coupons, different things like that. So all the data and the contents, it'd be great if this platform has it right for you online. And like I was saying, you want it to be updated enough to prevent bugs, but also stable. So you may want to ask for specifics about their most recent update. And yeah, thank you for that link, Raphael. So I think that's all as far as software and hardware. Again, any questions on those, just let me know. And then I'll close before opening it up to FAQs here with analyzing beacon marketing. So as I was saying, it's really important to think about the data in advance, to configure your campaigns in a way that you get the most ROI. Because really launching a beacon marketing campaign is not that difficult anymore. The technology's been around long enough that there's some good platforms out there. There's a lot of support out there. So it's not a hugely daunting task. So where you can really stand out instead of just sending messages, but actually using the data you get from sending that messages, so sending those messages to improve your beacon marketing and even your marketing in general. So just a couple of quick tips here. If available, you want to use the info about the device to learn insights such as the language of the OS. So it can be helpful for demographic info, and you can find out the ID and type of device and where they are. So you have this information already from your app. If you have an app that you're integrating an SDK with, but thanks to beacons, you can know, for example, how many Android users are in your store versus iPhone users. So you can really see that the high value app users because you can see if they've been in a retail location. So maybe you find out you have a lot more Android users, so you want to focus more on your Android app, for example. You can also, a lot of beacon software allows you to see dwell time too, so you can see who visited what and for how long, plus the coupons that they used. So you can see maybe even a heat map of your store and see which areas people are visiting more often. And maybe target them with beacon messages in that particular area, or even if you have in-store ads, you maybe want to focus more on this particular zone versus another zone. So it can help you improve your marketing campaigns with beacons, but also can help you improve your store layout or your messages. You see, you can do some A/B testing with different placements and different layouts too. Keep in mind the points not visited by a particular user can be really helpful as well. So you can see what areas aren't visited as much, or maybe this user got this beacon message, but they didn't get another beacon message. So maybe you want to send them a beacon message once they get into this other area. So you can use where they visited and where they haven't visited to send different messages to. So keep that in mind. You can also see which coupons or messages get the most click-through. So maybe you can do some copy testing here, some A/B testing with that as well, with the messages themselves. And as I was saying earlier, sending a survey can be really helpful. So perhaps send them even a reward once they're leaving a store if they do a survey for you, and so you get some valuable information from people that were in your store, and maybe this reward can give them some points towards their next visit. So they get them back in the store as well. And yeah, so beyond looking at the data from the campaign manager itself, it's important to know how many campaigns were delivered. So maybe you're having trouble with a beacon placement because it's not, or the beacon speed, the beacon rate that it's sending the identifier. So maybe you want to improve that there. Make sure all the campaigns were delivered to optimize their effectiveness, and even look at particular sales, because it's a bit tough. You can have beacons at point of sales, but it's a bit tough to know exactly how much ROI you get without a good strategy in place. So maybe you look at your sales of particular products that you're marketing via beacons. And even you can look at app downloads as well to see if people are appreciating the beacon integration too. So yeah, just kind of concluding here, it's proximity marketing, and in particular with beacons, can be a lot more effective if there's a well-defined analytics strategy in place prior to deploying the beacons. So yeah, we should always be thinking about the best way to provide value to customers. So that's all I have. And yes, Zishan, it is possible. So yeah, that's all I have. Time for FAQs, and we'll start with Zishan's question. Appreciate the interaction here, Zishan. Hope we're pronouncing your name right. But yes, it is possible to have one beacon used by multiple apps. It's a little bit tougher if the manufacturer has a rotating beacon, but it's definitely been done before. There's a lot of use cases that use beacons to send retail messages with one app, and then an organization like, I think this is how you spell it, Wayfinder, uses it to uses the same beacon to help people who are visually impaired get around the store. So yeah, you can see a lot of use cases for using beacons for multiple apps. Maybe you use one for a travel app to help people get around an area that are tourists. Maybe the same beacon can be used for sending out marketing messages and for the visually impaired. Actually, we're trying to get the city of Barcelona to have a beacon registry similar to CETA's beacon registry. CETA beacon registry. I don't have the link here, but they have a beacon registry for airports, and that really helps apps know what beacons are available to them, and it helps come together with best practices. And yes, I do have my LinkedIn profile here. But before that, another question from Zishan. Is there any mobile which I have built in a beacon application, or need to install a beacon supported application? Yeah, so most new mobile devices can work with beacons. I think, I can't remember the Android OS, but I think iOS 7 and over all can work with beacons, have BLE built in. And there's a ton of beacon apps apps with beacons out there, in all different sectors. You know, from airports to retailers to events. I don't know if there's any particular industry you're thinking of, but I can come up with a use case. And my LinkedIn profile, let me get on that here. I think it's just Jordan J. Franck, but yeah, here it is. Feel free to get in touch. We can get a one-on-one. Yeah, thank you. Android 4.4. Perfect. Thanks, Raphael. And yeah, I'd love to connect on LinkedIn and love to set up a talk if you guys have any more questions or want to brainstorm about things. I'm available. And I will stay online here even if no one has any other questions for another couple of minutes. But if anyone has to get out, no worries, I won't be offended. Hopefully there's some good things for everyone here. And again, feel free to get in touch. We'd love to connect more. Yeah, I'm not seeing any questions. I'll turn off my microphone here. But again, thanks everyone for attending, and hopefully we stay in touch. And yeah, really exciting industry. All right, hasta luego.